Please.
Yep, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the open meeting for Thursday, October 29th, 2020, and ask the Commission Secretary for information on today's agenda.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the minutes of the open meeting of Thursday, October 29th, 2020, and each has informed me there's no need to discuss those minutes.
I move we approve the minutes of Thursday, October 29, 2020.
I'm sorry, Ellen, October 22nd, 2020.
Oh, yeah, that one. Move
By mistake.
I'm telling the future. Let's move for the approval of Thursday, October 22nd meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Each commissioner has independently reviewed the agenda, and each has informed me there's no need to discuss the notices associated with agenda items 2 through 7.
I move we approve the notices of investigation associated with agenda items 2 and 3.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I move we approve the notices of proceeding associated with agenda items 4 through 7.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That takes us to agenda item 8, which is docket 3320-TW-104. This is the application of the city of Manitowoc as a water public utility to make a change to its tariff. So Manitowoc Public Utilities has requested to change its water tariff to allow them to use estimated reads every other month for water customers with small meters. They are rolling out AMI meters, and that will eliminate the need to read electric meters manually. And so they are asking for the ability to read bi-monthly, and that there will be cost savings associated with that, but they want to continue to bill on a monthly basis. And so I'm interested to hear what my colleagues have to say about this. I read this multiple times and I kind of scratched my head, and I'm just wondering, I have no problem with bi-monthly reads. I have no problem with quarterly reads. I mean, the admin code clearly contemplates different meter reading schedules. It also contemplates the ability to bill quarterly and to bill bi-monthly, but I can't understand why they don't just want to bill bi-monthly. That's where I get confused. So it seems to me, as a general matter, that the statutes taken along with the code strive for actual meter readings to form the basis for utility bills. And so this sort of hybrid approach of reading every other month, but then billing every month, seems to me that it's going to create a lot of back and forth between the utility and the customer with the true-up provision. And I'm not as concerned necessarily about the proper price signal or about educating customers, because to me, it looks like the company filed a lot of educational information and that they're going to be performing outreach. But I just, in the name of, when I look at the statute and I look at the admin code, there is a clear direction that billing, when possible, should be based on actual meter reads. So again, I have no problem with them doing bi-monthly reads. I just think then they should do bi-monthly bills. But I don't feel too terribly strongly about this. So as I indicated, as I read this multiple times, sort of scratching my head, I was very curious to see where my colleagues come out on this. So that's just going to be kind of my opening statement. I'm inclined to not approve it for those reasons, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Commissioner Nowak?
Thanks. Yeah, this one was certainly different We don't see, most of these are delegated decisions. They asked us to come up to us. So the first, threshold question I had was, is this allowed in the code and statutes? And I believe that answer is yes. Most utilities don't even, we do have some utilities that were foresighted here that we allow estimated billing. They want, I think, to your answer. So then the answer is yes. Is it allowed? And then the next question is, is it reasonable or is it in the public interest? I think it is. I mean, because there's nothing here to say it's not. And in the absence of it being an unreasonable or something contrary to the public interest, I don't think it's a reduction in service. The customers are still getting their water. They are getting a bill. It's estimated, which is, it is allowed in the code. As you said, the code does strive for billing that is, an actual read, but it also allows for estimates, and we have allowed that. I also had some questions like, well, why don't they just go to quarterly billing? Or, your question too, why don't they just bill every other month? And, maybe it's the consistency of receiving a bill for their customers. The variance that they estimated for the volumetric portion is going to be about $8.15 a month, maybe, at the most. So we're not talking about changing a huge price signal potential change here. I think my guess is they just wanted to keep it monthly just for consistency for their customers receiving something every month from them. But then I go, if that's how they want to do it, let them do it. It's not, there were no customer, now I'm guessing no one's really running to read the public notice section in the Manitowoc paper. So what didn't shock me that there wasn't a lot of maybe response to some of the outreach, but they did the required outreach. And who are we to say that they should bill monthly or every other month if it's both are permissible under the code, both are in the public interest? They may find after this is in place for a while that maybe their customers don't like it. Maybe they'll change it, but I'm prepared to let them give this a try and see if that works for them. See if the customers are okay with it. I it's water. This is not going to be a big fluctuation in that estimated versus monthly or the actual reads. And they've got some measures in place in case there is something funky going on. So I think that it's permissible, and I found that it was in the public interest, so I would allow it.
Okay. Commissioner Huebner.
Yeah, thank you very much. I too was actually basically in the same position as Commissioner Nowak on this, and I had a good briefing with staff and want to certainly talk about the benefits of monthly billing as they are relayed, and specifically one that stuck out to me was related to leak detection and the value of, if you have a leak, being able to see that more frequently. However, this to me presented a kind of a unique circumstance where you've got extremely inexpensive water utility provision where their bills are among the lowest in the state. And as you said, about $8 a month is what we're talking about here for the actual volumetric read. The other thing is the units are being measured in CCF, which is 748 gallons, as it says. So the units are changing from like 3 units a month to 4, or 4 to 5, or 5 to 6, very small gradations of change. And I think that lends itself to the ability to estimate and not cause a big bill shock from one month to the next. The other thing that I think weighed in the favor of allowing it for me was seeing those sample bills and seeing how for Manitowoc you've got electric, water, and wastewater service all billed on the same exact bill. And so, I think they're going to bill monthly for electric service. And the relatively small bill related to water and wastewater So this was one of those where it was like 51-49 for me, but I think I was okay with allowing it. The other thing, I know they're coming in for a rate case next year, and so we're going to have a chance pretty much short, 6-9 months after this is implemented, we're going to get a look at it right away. And they offered to do essentially a pilot to try this for 6 months. And I think effectively that's what would happen is if we allowed this now, we would get some months of information and be able to take this right back up in the rate case that they're going to have to file anyway. So I was okay with this.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you're right. You guys are both right. It's allowable. Is it not just unreasonable? No, I worry about the impact on consumers. I just don't think it's very consumer friendly. And I think we have done a lot of work to try and standardize practices over the years. And I guess I just worry about that gradual chipping away. It would have been nice if they, would just go to AMI and then they would have better data. But I don't know. I mean, this isn't worth sort of dying on the hill. So I will join you guys and we'll allow it, and then we'll see what happens. If there's a huge influx in customer complaints, they can always modify it. That's the thing too, is, nothing we really do is permanent, right? So, okay, so I'll join you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
We had the question on the waiver too.
Oh, right. So then there was a lot of talk about the waiver. So we have two alternatives in front of us, right? One would be that it does require the waiver and approve it due to exceptional or unusual circumstances. I don't know that it really falls under exceptional or unusual, but that gets to the threshold question of whether we all agree that it requires a waiver. So of course I was at Alt 2, that it requested that I would have not approved the waiver request.
Yeah,
Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, I don't think it requires a waiver, so I don't think that either one of these alternatives here is necessary. I don't think a waiver is legally required here. It's permissible under the law, so I would not choose either of those.
Okay. Commissioner Huebner?
Yeah, I clarified that with our legal team as well. Sort of, was there an unwritten alternative 3, which is, it doesn't require a waiver. That's where I was at too. I think the way the code is written is, if we approve the tariff, then it's allowed. And if we're going to approve this tariff, then it's allowed. Again, with that provision that in my book, we're coming back in the rate case to see how it's working. So I would say, I would agree with Commissioner Nowak that I don't think we need a waiver here, and leave it at that.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, then in docket 3320 TW 104, I move that we accept the application of Manitowoc Public Utilities for a tariff change to allow for estimated volumetric reads every other month for small use water customers, consistent with our discussion today.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to our final item on today's agenda, which is docket 6240-CW-117. This is a limited reopener of Waukesha Water Utilities construction docket that we looked at earlier this year. They were unable to get a conditional use permit from the city of New Berlin for the booster station. They then commenced discussions with the city of New Berlin. They entered into an intergovernmental agreement, and they would like us to consider an alternate site for the facilities that we previously authorized. There are some cost differentials. There were a number of comments filed by residents and by governmental agencies. I think consistent with our past practice, when we hear from elected officials of municipalities, that we take those into consideration and we treat them as comments, regardless of the deadline for party comments. So I would accept all of the comments that were filed in this case. And for me, what was the most telling was the comments from the municipalities. I mean, they had an issue and they worked it out. They entered into an intergovernmental agreement, and there's going to be consideration paid from the city of New Berlin to the city of Waukesha. And I think that that's the way things should work out. So I was happy that they were able to come to an agreement. I think that the staff analysis was thorough and complete. And really, we just have 3 questions in front of us. The first, there was a lot of discussion about the T connection and whether or not that's properly in front of us right now. The city of New Berlin indicated that they don't plan to utilize that interconnection, but I was persuaded that it makes sense to authorize that right now. And just wait. And if New Berlin wants to be able to use that, then they can come and seek authorization from us for that. But I mean, construction projects hit snags all the time. And I was actually pleased that New Berlin and Waukesha were able to come to an agreeable solution. So I would go ahead and authorize that T connection construction. So I was at Alt 2, and then I would approve their alternative site and design. I was at Alt 2 for approving this alternative site, and I would move the conditions from our previous order as well as the modifications that were outlined by staff. And I would include their proposed revision to order point 11 related to the special plant species. And then, as was clarified a little bit later, I would also include that order condition 12. As the parties pointed out, Manuka Park will continue to be impacted by the project. So I would keep that condition in. Commissioner Nowak.
Yeah, this is the continuing saga of the Waukesha water connection, about chapter 800, and hopefully nearing the end of where this is going. But we're getting closer, and like you, I applaud the municipalities for working this out. The difference they had, there was a lot of discussion among them, and I think it's always better that they work out what's best for them in their area rather than the 3 of us doing that. They know what's best for their citizens. They're running their respective municipalities. So, and it complies. There's stuff probably in that agreement that, it's there. The whole thing seems reasonable, but the T connection specifically, and this is one where it wasn't in the reopener, but it's in our discretion to allow it. This is one where I'm going to say, we can either be a rules are rules, or just say what makes practical real sense here and what's good business sense and what's good use of the dollars. This clearly makes sense. It's, if it were a much larger expense, I think we'd have to, and, maybe this isn't something that's gonna, it's not visible to people. So that's probably why we didn't hear from anybody either, that they didn't like it. So it makes sense. I too would allow it under alternative 2, as with the understanding that New Berlin has to come back in and file for actual use of it. The one thing that kind of is, this is basically to benefit New Berlin. It's going to be in this case, but again, is that something that was worked out in that intergovernmental agreement with the exchange of dollars? I don't know specifically, but I think it's fine to allow the T connection. And then also for the overall move from New Berlin into Waukesha, I think this makes sense. They found a good alternative site. Yes, it does impact new people. I understand that. I understand that, you know, there's always some disagreement about that. The environmental review was very thorough. I thought staff, you know, the mitigation impacts from both a visual and environmental side, I think can handle the issues coming forward. So I think it makes sense to do that. I also agree with you in carrying forward all of the conditions we approved in the original docket approving this, carry them forward, including even leaving in order condition 12. Initially, maybe West Manuka Park, there's still going to be pipeline in the area. So to the extent that there is some disruption still along Manuka Park with the pipeline, I think the utility still should work with the city there to just minimize disruption as well. So I'm fine with all of those. So same spot on alternative 2 under the alternative site and design as you are, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Huebner?
Yep, I'm in lockstep with you both on this one. Thank you. Without repeating everything that you've already said, yes, I think the T connection from a construction perspective, it makes sense. And I was at alternative 2. I thought the staff came up with a nicely worded alternative there. Because yes, we certainly can't contemplate the interconnection today, but it does make sense while they're building it to do that. You know, continue to work with staff. You know, I think there was some frustration about the numbers that were provided at various stages in data requests. So that's, you know, going to be sorted out post-construction, but, you know, we've got to, you know, make sure that the numbers line up with what staff needs. Besides that, I was with you in including, I was at alternative 2, including the previous order conditions, as you said, Madam Chair, adding in the plant species that was related, that was new to this site. And then the final one was just compliance with WEPA, and I was at alternative 1 that we've complied there. And again, I think the staff did a really nice job on that environmental review here. So that finishes my comments. Thank you.
Okay, great. I was also at Alt 1 in terms of environmental review that we've complied with WEPA. Commissioner Nowak?
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hopefully this is the final chapter.
You've just cursed it. All right. All right. And docket 6240 CW 117, I move that in this reopened proceeding, we approve with the conditions we discussed today, the City of Waukesha's alternative site and design for the booster pumping station, ground storage, reservoirs, water tower, and water supply pipeline.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That concludes our official business for today. Our next open meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 5th, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. May we have a motion to adjourn?
Move we stand adjourned until November 5th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.